Head of the Cyclone Division at the IMD, Dr. M Mahapatra, joins us for an update on the cyclone which is expected to make landfall around noon. Sir, if you could give our viewers a slight projection about the speed at which it's approaching mainland as well as what is expected after noon.
Yeah. As you can see in the satellite imagery, this is the cloud mass which is already engulfing North Andhra Pradesh and South Odisha coast. And this is the track of the cyclone. This is the past track which indicates that cyclone developed over Andaman Sea and moved west-northwestwards, then northwestwards. And now it is located about 60 kilometers east-southeast of Visakhapatnam. Okay. And we are expecting that today, around noon time, it will cross North Andhra Pradesh coast near Visakhapatnam.
So this is the projected path that you're showing us?
Yeah, this is the projected path.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what exactly is this green area? Is this the impact area, the damage area? That
this is the area of variation in the track sometimes, but now since the system is very close to the coast, it is the most confident position of the track.
How far is Vizag from this particular projected path, sir?
It is close to Vizag.
It's very close
to Vizag.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as the day progresses, after noon, after it hits mainland, after the landfall, what exactly are we expecting? Is it going to increase in speed, decrease in speed? What are we expecting? At the time of landfall, its speed will be same as the speed at present, which is 170 to 180 km per hour, gusting to 195 km per hour. But after the landfall, due to the land friction and cut-off of moisture, it will weaken. So therefore, we are expecting that for next 6 hours after landfall, it will have the intensity of very severe cyclone storm. Then it will again rapidly weaken into a cyclone storm for the subsequent 6 hours. Then in subsequent 12 hours, it will weaken into a depression. Okay. So therefore, when it will be moving towards south interior part of the Malkangiri district, it will become a cyclone storm. So wind speed will be reduced at the time to 80 to 90 km per hour over this area. Okay. So you're suggesting that once it crosses the Odisha area, that's when you expect it to actually start decreasing in terms of speed and the velocity?
Yes, that we are expecting.
Thank you very much for joining Headlines Today with camera person Rajiv Srivastava, Jaskirat Singh Bawa in New Delhi for Headlines Today.
Joining me live for more on that is Manogya Loiwal from Gopalpur in Odisha. Manogya, what is the situation there in Gopalpur right now with the cyclone with less than 50 kilometers away? It is about to hit Visakhapatnam in about 2 hours from now.
Well, we've seen the silent face of sea, the poise and the calm face of sea yesterday and day before yesterday, but today it's a different face altogether. It's not the normal sea that we've ever seen here in Odisha, except for Phelan and of course the super cyclone. It's very violent, it's extremely windy, it's extremely breezy here. The waves are lashing near the seashore and the waves are also rising higher. If you can see, the entire stretch that you see from here is the sea here, which has become violent with every passing minute. The waves are just rising higher. It's more than 6 to 8 meters already now. So you can imagine the speed of the wind, which is above 70 to 80 kilometers per hour, with cyclone just a few kilometers away, and it's expected to rise more. Remember, the eye of the storm, cyclone is just a few kilometers away, and perhaps that's the reason why it is hitting northwards as much as possible, and that's the reason why the waves will be rising higher with every passing minute. The locals have been extremely tense. They have been very worried about the fact that there is no electricity supply in this area. It has been intentionally cut off by the state government, keeping in mind that it would be very difficult to manage any kind of mishap in this area. We've been told that 46,000 people have been evacuated today also. That means evacuation process is a continuous process for the state government, where they have been doing it continuously, and they have also been keeping in mind that it would not be an easy process, making people shift to shelters at this point of time. Some of them reluctant, some of them hesitant, and also not ready to leave their normal habitat and move to these kind of shelters, which will be open shelters constructed properly over the past few years. Well, interestingly, we've also been told that in case the storm, the cyclone takes more time in reaching and hitting the shore, it will be even more stronger because it would be gathering more moisture over that time, and perhaps that's the biggest worry of the administration also.
Right, Manogya, stay on with us. Joining me also live in this broadcast is Jaskirat Singh Bawa from Delhi. He's been reporting from the IMD, and editor South T.S. Sudhir from Hyderabad. Jaskirat, coming to you, what are the advisories that have been issued by the IMD as of now?
Well, the IMD is projecting a path, of course, for the cyclone. They're expecting it to, of course, make landfall by approximate noon. If I can just show you, and my camera person Rajiv will zoom in over here, that's the existing path of the cyclone, which has been moving towards the mainland. As far as the IMD is concerned, they have in fact alerted the authorities that by noon is when they're expecting this to be making landfall. However, the speed at which it will be making landfall is what is of interest over here. It will be over 150 kilometers per hour, and it is actually expected to increase as the day progresses. So it's very crucial. For 6 hours after it makes landfall, which is between noon and 6 p.m. today, is the most crucial phase when this cyclone is expected to have its maximum impact on the land. But once it moves into the Odisha area over the next 12 hours after landfall, it's after that they actually expect the speed to decrease, and after that it is only after that there's going to be any relief, if at all. So it is the next 12 hours or so which is extremely crucial to see what exactly is going to be the impact. They have of course expected that the wind speed will increase after it makes landfall, so they want everyone to be either out of the path which is projected by them, or they want everyone to remain indoors and safe and away from the cyclone.
Right, Jugal Manogia and T.S. Sudhir, stay on with us. We'll keep coming back to you. The tidal waves induced by Cyclone Hudhud have breached the naval dockyard's breakwaters in Visakhapatnam. The Coast Guard, meanwhile, confirmed that no distress situation has developed in the Bay of Bengal so far. The Coast Guard is in touch with all ports, merchant vessels, fishing authorities, and the Coast Guard ship Sarang has sailed from Chennai with relief and rescue materials. So far, operations are under control and are being closely monitored. Right, Jugal Purohit now joins me live from Visakhapatnam. Jugal, that's a relief news that we are getting, that there has been no distress call right now and the government is monitoring the situation very closely.
That's right, Amita. In fact, there are two aspects to any cyclone relief and rescue operation. The first one is at sea. Since day before is when the Navy and the Coast Guard have been sanitizing the entire area, informing fishermen, advising them, and then in some rare cases actually pushing them out and telling them to stay indoors. That's what's happening on one side. On the other side, several ships in Vizag, in Chennai, in Paradeep, they've all in Haldia, in fact, they've all been loaded up with a lot of relief material. Helicopters of the Indian Air Force have been deployed at Barakpur, Bhubaneswar, Haldia. Also, we're given to understand a hovercraft at Haldia has also been activated. So measures are plenty that have been taken, and these measures will actually reflect and will come into play once the landfall takes place and the cyclone then moves on further into the hinterland. The other side of the entire rescue operation, Amita, is what's happening on the ground. Now, I have been traveling since last night from Maharashtra, where I was, and then when we came here, we've traveled almost 3 to 4 states. And as we neared this area, that's early this morning, even in places 200 to 50 kilometers from the coast of Visakhapatnam, we could see tremendous amount of damage. We could see trees being uprooted, poles being uprooted, and this picture, mind you, that I'm telling to you is about a couple of hours ago. The intensity after that has only grown. I've been in Visakhapatnam for an hour or so. Out here the scene is much worse. People are not on the streets, rightfully so, except a few of them in search of some adventurism. But otherwise, the streets are completely deserted. In many areas, trees have completely blocked movement, and people have been obviously advised to stay indoors. But what's extremely worrying, Amita, and our viewers should know, is that people who we've been speaking to in Visakhapatnam, people, many of them even senior citizens, are telling us that they've never ever seen a scenario of this sort. And we are not even right now 2.5 hours. This is a scene 2.5 hours before the landfall actually takes place, which is when the entire scenario will intensify. And if I can just briefly describe to you what happens, since one has had the opportunity to cover cyclones before. Right, what happens is when the landfall actually takes place an hour or two before is when the intensity will shoot up. After which the eye of the storm, which we are given to understand is 35 kilometers in diameter, is when it arrives on the scene. Now for that period, there is a lull. There is a lull for as long as you remain in the eye of the storm. That's the time when it's all hunky-dory, everything is peaceful, everything is comfortable, and many of the people actually commit the mistake of thinking that all is over, because there is another spell, the second half of the cyclone, which will hit you after that. And what happens at that point is that if the direction of the wind is in clockwise direction before, then after the eye of the storm passes over, it will be anti-clockwise. The intensity, most importantly, which will be much more. So people are advised to stay indoors, not just when it makes the landfall or when the eye passes, but for at least 3 to 4 hours after the eye has actually crossed over.
Right.
So it will require some amount of sense on the part of the people also to not venture out on the streets. And as I've just explained, the authorities on their side are claiming that they're absolutely prepared. Yesterday, even the Prime Minister chaired a meeting of all the departments concerned. Of course,
Right,
given
Jugal.
the past record, exactly this year, last year was when Cyclone hit Odisha and Andhra Pradesh, and at that time the disaster response was much better, was actually quite good. So one is hoping that it will not be a downward trend from there on. If anything, it will only improve. Amita?
Right, Jugal, stay on with us. Coming to you, T.S. Sudhir. The cyclone is named after a dainty old bird, but certainly it's not a dainty cyclone. The worst is yet to come, as Jugal was reporting. What update do you have with you?
Well, absolutely. The worst is yet to come. Make no mistake about it. It's a monster of a storm out there in the Bay of Bengal, almost knocking at Visakhapatnam's doors. It is not as intense a cyclone as Cyclone Cyclone, which hit Odisha coast on October 12 last year. But make no mistake about it, it's almost half the size of India. And as Jugal was pointing out, once it actually starts crossing, the intensity will be much more. But even as we are reporting from Visakhapatnam and other parts of coastal Andhra Pradesh, there has been no electricity. It's a city plunged into darkness. The electricity has been cut off, obviously, to avoid any mishaps. Trees have been uprooted, so as a result of which many roads in and around Visakhapatnam are blocked. And this cyclone is actually going to hit just north of Visakhapatnam, which is about 35 kilometers north of Visakhapatnam. So it's essentially the port city, which is also called, ironically, the city of destiny, which is really going to bear the brunt of Cyclone Hudhud. So at the moment, the district administration asking people not to indulge in any kind of bravado, not to indulge in any kind of cyclone tourism, asking all residents of Visakhapatnam to stay indoors, because the idea is really to avoid as much human casualty as possible. So that's the situation at the moment. But as you said, the worst is yet to come. I was talking to scientists at INCOIS, and they were really telling me about how the flooding post this landfall is going to be extremely critical, because there are many rivulets, the delta area in the Godavari and the Krishna, which could actually get flooded post the landfall, and that is going to cause a lot of damage in the other districts like East and West Godavari and even Krishna districts. So those are the areas which the Andhra Pradesh administration and even Odisha administration will really have to worry about post the landfall, which could happen anytime in the afternoon.
Welcome back. You with headlines today. We're tracking the big story, Cyclone Hudhud, where headlines today reporters are spread across Odisha and Andhra Pradesh to bring you live minute by minute updates on the Cyclone Hudhud. Joining me live from Visakhapatnam is headlines today's Jugal Purohit. Jugal, the storm is less than 50 kilometers away from Visakhapatnam. It is likely to make landfall in about 2 hours from now. But also important is looking at the aftermath of the storm. How prepared is the army and the NDRF teams and the government to handle that kind of situation?
As I was saying, the last night, the cyclone on this day has been a much more intense, a much more stronger cyclone actually is this we haven't seen. Among the most cyclone storms look at the Bay of Bengal, all the Indian Ocean people, in fact. Andhra Pradesh and Odisha have the equivalent track of the cyclone in seen for which compared to distance around the street. Having said that, the manner in which the disaster rescue was done last time around, though the scale was much towards less support for it was commendable. In fact, several international also spoke about the same. But that is also rare in a situation like that. It's still challenge emerges, because what happens is that as of now, the landfall is awaited. After that, it's the urban area. And as it keeps going, even though it's actually really makes sense, but it's talking more and more about the rainfall, it's havoc with the fields, it's havoc with such a home facilities. That's where the real storm is, and that's once the landfall move out. So the real challenge is still today, of course, as I was recounting, the army has to face several problems in Odisha, in Gopalpur, region of Odisha, in Andhra, in areas like Ranchi, where they can airport or airlift areas. The Navy has several of its teams. Remember, Visakhapatnam, the headquarters of the command, a very, very close command of the Navy, just out there.
Right, Jugal. The Navy, the Army and the NDRF teams are on standby. There are helpline numbers that are flashing on your television screens. We'll continue to update you minute by minute, live updates, extensive coverage by Headlines Today reporters that are spread across Andhra Pradesh and Odisha for the cyclone Hudhud.